What's up, gamers? Welcome to Heads Up Display. Sure, we give you a well-rounded review of all the hottest games. Today we're going to be talking about Gone Home. But before we do that, let's get to know the panel. I'm Carmen Askernes.
I'm David Pivato.
I'm Eric Van Allen.
I'm Robin Hazlett.
All right, guys. So we're talking about Gone Home. What do you guys think about the gameplay?
Well, I think whenever we start talking about Gone Home, I think like the basics of this game is that you play a girl named Caitlin, and she's studied abroad in Europe for a year, and then you come home at around 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're just trying to figure out what's going on. So the gameplay really involves you just walking around an empty house, trying to not necessarily solve puzzles, but put together the story that's happened over the past year since you were gone. And it was a really interesting take on what gameplay could be.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and one of the most I think thought-provoking points of Gone Home is that in the way that it cuts out gameplay and it makes it not feel like you're playing a game necessarily. You don't have a health bar, a little points meter, anything like that. There's no display or anything, and it almost creates more intimacy with the character, and you feel more like the main character than many other games I've played like this. And it's similar to Dear Esther, which is another game made by the same studio, where you really are thrust into the role of the main character. And while it's kind of hard to say it has good gameplay because there's really nothing else besides touching and picking things up, it also was simple enough that it served its purpose extremely well.
Well, as far as gameplay went, I thought that it did a lot more with what it cut out. We didn't need to go and have the standard health bar. We didn't need it. I thought it was a lot more in-depth for the fact that you were the one who was driving it. It was you finding out these pieces instead of, well, I've gotten to this point in the game, so here's this little piece of the story that there's going to hand at me like they would do in Dear Esther, like you're just walking along and then there's an audio feedback of, well, this is what I've been going through right now. It's you're the one that is going through and driving what you're picking up, in what order, how, and like you're having to put it together yourself.
Yeah, I think that this game specifically, it really speaks to what a game can be, what is a game, what is gameplay. And I think that if we only define gameplay as you have a gun or you are trying to solve puzzles, I think that's kind of using an archaic form of what a game is. This really is, I've heard some people talk about online as like an interactive novel, but I think that kind of does the game a discredit because it is a game. This kind of experience could only be had while playing a game. Because whenever you first enter the house, you can either go left down the hallway or you can go up the stairs. It doesn't tell you which one, it just, you open the door and there you go. So I've spoken to people who went upstairs and got that part of the story first and then had to pick up the pieces whenever you figure out the stuff that happens later and kind of have to fill in the background. So I think that it does a lot interesting gameplay to drive the story.
I agree with what you guys are saying. I mean, I think there's a trend of this new style of gameplay that's not focused around explosions and pressing A to win, which is really cool. And I think that players shouldn't be turned off of the game because of this, because it's a great experience. Games are essentially voluntary play. So you're invested in this game the entire time based on the characters.
Definitely.
Like you guys said before, there's a lot of exploration, and you can choose to play the game however you like. I think that's something that is a big strength of the game. But while we're on the subject, what do you guys think about the characters? Because they really make this game.
Yeah. I think that the characters are, you play Caitlin, but the story is definitely Sam's story. Sam is your younger sister. She's about 17 years old, I think, in the game, 17, 16. She's just finishing high school. And the games really deals with a lot of themes about young love and about what it means to grow up and what it means to kind of lose touch with your family and try and have to pick up the pieces, which is something that I think we've all experienced in some way, shape, or form. So it really does hit home in quite a lot of places. And Sam is such a well-rounded character that by the end of the game, I remember I was sprinting through the hallways just because towards the end of the story, whenever things start getting intense and real, I would have done anything at that point to have been like, where is Sam? Where is my parents?
Yes, got real.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it definitely got real.
And the characters were so interesting because, and it's so weird to say this, but this is one of the few games where you really had full voice acting. And even though it was only from 2 characters, I think, you only had the main character and Sam, it was so interesting. They got a really really good voice actor for Sam. I mean, the way that she read the diaries even as you were walking around, and just the character of Sam in general. It's so interesting to, I guess from our perspective, having gone through those awkward adolescent years, to kind of follow her progression through it. And you gotta keep in mind, I mean, your character's only been gone for a year and so much has changed. And I think the only thing that was really lacking in the character department was I would have liked to have seen more of how the main character had an effect on the other family members before she left, because it really felt like they built it up as all this stuff kind of crumbled down in like the span of 1 year. And you know, sometimes things do happen that way, but I felt like I would have liked to have had a more of a connection with the main character and understand a little bit more of her motives. Why did she study abroad? You know, why is she off doing all these things? It just needed a little bit more depth there for me.
Yeah, and like what was her role within the family? Like, was she the glue that was holding everyone together? And then when she left, you know, the parents go off to couples counseling, things like that. For me, it was kind of walking into like a living museum for me, because I was 10 in 1995, so I still have the Trapper Keeper. And I looking at all of the things that they were talking about, like the little 3D puzzles that, you know, you'd cross your eyes and you'd be able to see things. It's like, I remember that. And it's like that kind of nostalgia that's like, it kind of grips your heart and you can't.
Just hearing Nirvana's music again was giving me
the
flashbacks.
The music in this game is great. Through the relationship that Sam has whenever she's starting her first real relationship, the person she's with keeps giving her mixtapes, and the mixtapes are hidden all around the house, and you can just put them in all of the things, and just listening to that great like girl power pop. It was cool. I liked it a lot.
I thought it was just, you know, to touch back on that, being able to pick things up and move things, putting the mixtapes in, as little as that sounds, like, you know, it's still such like it's a solid thing. It's so different from what we have now, where you just kind of like pull things up on your iPhone, but having that physical contact was, it was great.
Yeah, excellent.
The characters are very well rounded, and so is the story. And like you guys mentioned before, we were all alive in '95, and for people who weren't, like, they can still feel that same feeling that we feel of being connected with the characters. I think that the whole idea of teen love, like this blind optimism that's throughout the whole game, is just really refreshing, because a lot of games now are so dark and gritty and so like focused on despair and just the negative things that can happen. This game gives you a small sense of optimism and hope, and I think that's nice. And the game really does a good job of allowing the player to like step into these people's lives. Like, we know from the first start of the game, when we first turn on, that these characters exist before we started playing this game. Like, it's not like we started playing and they were born and we're just like jumping into their lives. But anyway, why don't we just go ahead and give our scores for the game. So me, I'm gonna give the game a 9 out of 10. I really love this game. I advise anybody out there to go pick it up. It's a great game to play, especially if you love the whole story-driven style of games. It's similar to The Walking Dead as far as the story is concerned. So definitely check it out. 9 out of 10 for me.
I agree. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 too. I loved this game. I think admittedly, I did play it on a PC that could barely run anything, and so I had to play it on the lowest graphic settings. So there were a few technical hitches that kept it from being a perfect 10. But if you've ever played a game like BioShock and loved the audio diaries, loved finding all the little pieces to put the story together in the background, but you were like, I wish I didn't have to, do all this killing for no apparent reason. That's the game. It's a great game. 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with these guys that as a story-driven game, it is definitely above and beyond. And if you're looking for that sort of thing, it's where you got to go. But if I'm looking at it as a game, I think it did everything right. But at the same time, it's hard for me to rate this as a $20 game, and that is the biggest point for me. Is I really didn't feel like it was a $20 game, and there's a little bit of replayability going back trying to find all the things you missed, but it's really more of a short experience that is wonderful, but I wish just had been fleshed out a little bit more, or maybe added in a little bit more to make it more replayable or feel like it was a fuller game. So I'm gonna go with 8 out of 10. I'm
going to give this one a 10 out of 10. The main reason is They did a beautiful job with the game itself. Yes, it was a 2-hour game, and yes, it was $20, but you wait for that Steam sale. It's gonna happen.
Oh yeah,
It's a perfect Steam sale game.
This on summer Steam sale, whenever this dropped to $5, if I know them and they don't buy this and it's $5, we will have a friendship problem.
No, it was just so beautifully done. Like for me, it was literally walking into a time capsule that I could play with. All I was looking for is like, where's the pogs in this? So, and I'm an explorer type of a gamer. So if there's a collectible, I'm going to find it. So the whole story in and of itself, the gameplay, it was just gorgeous. And I'm playing it again and again and going, oh, that was something new that I didn't see before. So there's a lot more discovery even after you think that you've discovered everything.
All right, guys, that's gonna make it a 9 out of 10 for Heads Up Display. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time on Heads Up Display.